Thank you very much, Mrs Lewell-Buck, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And can I congratulate the Honourable Lady, the member for North Shropshire, who made a speech about some issues that we can all share our concern on in this House. As being constituency MPs, we often go through the same casework. I am also aware that there are issues in my constituency along the issues that she has described, and her debate today is particularly timely. And can I also congratulate the Lib Dem spokesman on charming revisionism of his party's record in government. But I'll tackle some of the comments that have been made by some of the contributors in this debate, and then some general remarks about where we are in policy terms at the moment under this government. And the Honourable Lady who proposed the debate has raised the hell about genuine hell from constituents who often find that who live in homes that have been built many years ago but are now surrounded by a housing development that has not been properly connected to sewer systems or to drainage systems. And that's a particular issue in old villages. In fact, in my constituency in Botley, we've got the Botley-Curbridge corridor, where we've seen around 3,000 houses being built. And in sections of that Borley Green development, we now have a housing estate that cannot be used because the water company, but the developers have not put adequate infrastructure in, and those houses cannot be sold because out of the drainage systems we've got backed up sewage. And I understand the frustration that she's been going through in trying as an office and as a Member of Parliament to make sure that she can go to the right organisation or the right channels of communication to try and get those things sorted. I've also gone through that, and I know how challenging that is. I would also say that she mentioned in her remarks, and this is not a criticism of her at all, genuinely, that a number of the contributions this afternoon have targeted water companies for not doing enough. And I agree with that, but I also think there are examples that have happened in my constituency and across the country where water companies have genuinely tried to raise the alert about some of the frustrations they may have in building the infrastructure or saying that they are concerned about a development. One example is a large-scale development in my old constituency of Eastleigh, which borders my new constituency, One Horton Heath, where quite clearly more water companies have said that the land that this is being built on and the situation where this development is going, they are very worried about some of the powers that they want to put forward and some of the infrastructure they want to be put forward but have not been listened to in the planning system. Very briefly on some other contributions, the Honourable Lady for Cheltenham is a local hero in my constituency. Not Cheltenham, sorry, Chichester is a local hero in my constituency because I know that she has a history of speaking on issues like this. I hope she doesn't become too much of a hero in the northern villages of my constituency, but she will know that we are sharing some infrastructure investment that is going on from Southern Water and Portsmouth Water with the Water for Life scheme. I, like her, have serious concerns about some of the transparency and some of the plans going forward. She was absolutely right to mention some of the infrastructure that will be built to try and deal with the overall issue that the Honourable Lady from North Shropshire has described. But I remain concerned that this is a lot of money for a short-term project without a company like Southern Water, who has shown, quite frankly, they can't manage to run a bath properly. Making sure that they manage this project properly is something that I share deeply with her, and I hope that we can work together going forward to ensure that that project is fully looked at. And my honourable and gallant friend from Exmouth and Exeter East mentioned a large-scale development in his village of Cranbrook that's being expanded, and that water company, the South West Water, have not made good on the promise that they made. He made a genuinely interesting point about the 1.5 million homes. He is clear that the government needs to be clearer on reform. I'm hoping that as we go through the parliamentary stages of the planning and infrastructure bill, which the Minister will be delighted I will be sitting opposite him for many months to come, unless the leader says otherwise, I hope that they will make that reform clearer. But my honourable and gallant friend would also know that many people have actually challenged whether the 1.5 million homes are achievable. Look, we as a party have always made clear that home ownership should be made a reality for many hard-working families, and we do generally support the 1.5 million new homes. However, I must stress an essential caveat, and that new homes must be the right homes and be delivered in the right places, as I've said to the Minister before. And development must be sensitive to local needs, sustainable in its approach, and guided by the voices of communities that it serves, including water services. And there is an important point in that rural communities where water supply concerns pose significant challenges, water demand in rural areas fluctuates due to climate change, tourism and agricultural needs. Despite this, the government's new housing targets failed to account for these systematic pressures, leading to a dramatic increase in required housing numbers, 106% in the New Forest, 199% in North Yorkshire, and a staggering 487% in Westmoreland and Furness. Rural voices must be heard, particularly in discussions on surrounding water infrastructure and the continued lack of a statutory footing for water companies. And to mitigate these challenges, early collaboration between strategic policy-making authorities and water companies is essential, and I know the Minister will agree, and we agree with him. The updated MPPF, for example, in December acknowledged this need, continuing the previous government's commitment to aligning water infrastructure with development. And while water companies are not statutory consultees, and we agree that they should be in the later stages of the planning process, good practice dictates that their involvement in the planning process should be encouraged from the outset. Simply put, we cannot afford to ignore the vital and critical role of sustainable water management in housing development. And that is why the last government implemented the Plan for Water, focused on reducing demand, halving leakage rates, developing new infrastructure and ensuring drought resilience. We set clear, legally binding targets, including a 20% reduction in public water supply usage by 2038 and a significant cuts to leakage rates. Indeed, the previous government's record is clear. In 2010, only 7% of storm overflows were monitored. Under our leadership, we ensured 100% are now monitored. And we fast-tracked £180 million of investment to prevent over 8,000 sewage spills and secured £60 billion from water companies over the next 25 years. Yet, the Water Special Measures Bill does not adequately address the root causes of water pollution. Environmental groups like the River Action have criticised the bill, arguing that one-off actions will not resolve systematic pollution issues. And the truth is simple. The current system does not ensure that water demand and environmental protection are balanced. There's no real oversight, no accountability and no urgency to fix the problem. And we also face a major problem, major disconnect between planning and water management. Water companies create water resource and management plans to project future demand, but these plans do not always account for the real-time pressures from new housing development. Similarly, drainage and wastewater management plans are meant to assess the wastewater capacity, yet they lack the detail needed to align with local planning. And what's worse, as has been outlined by the Honourable Lady and many Liberal Democrat colleagues, is that water companies are not statutory consultees in the late stage of the planning process when detailed applications go before local authorities. This means that local councils approve new developments without properly assessing whether there is enough water supply or sewage treatment capacity. Under the law, water companies are forced to connect new developments, even when they know they lack the resources to do so sustainably. And only the Secretary of State can make the changes to the statutory list through secondary legislation. During the passage of the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act 2023, the government at the time committed to consulting on whether water companies should become statutory consultees on individual planning applications, and if so, how this could be facilitated. And I wonder if the Minister could outline, and he may not be able to tell us this afternoon, if he'd write to me and concerned parties, where we are on that review and whether that review evidence is still within his department. It may be that honourable members on this side of the House may have to put amendments forward in the forthcoming planning infrastructure bill to see that these changes are necessary on water companies. We would call for the government to publish the review, as I've just mentioned, into the statutory consultee system and look to include water companies' views on supply and treatment capacity before local authorities grant planning permission. This will enable water companies to input effectively on the planning process and better align investment plans with local development needs. To conclude, Mrs Lawbuck, the stakes are clear. We need a housing policy that's ambitious but also realistic. We need more water infrastructure that is sustainable and resilient. But most importantly, we need a government that listens to local communities rather than imposing those top-down unachievable targets and removing statutory consultees from the national planning policy framework and systems. I urge the government to build upon the solid foundation laid by its predecessors, as it expects me to say, to deliver on the plan for water and to ensure that home ownership remains within reach for hard-working families without compromising the integrity of our national resources. Thank you very much.